Welcome everyone to the Council meeting for the 11th of October 2022, which I now declare open. I'd like to extend a warm welcome to all of the members in our gallery tonight. Thank you very much for joining us, and also the people who are joining us online. As well as being live streamed, the video recording of this meeting will be available on our website, so attendees in the gallery, please be advised that your presence may be recorded. And that was a great reminder that I'll also ask for mobile phones to please be switched to silent mode during this meeting. I'll now say the reconciliation statement. Wananyunyu nagu waranduri rurong gulich naganan twambik winiru Moonee Valley dari wananyunyu gaguk nanjit bambut ba yalingbu. Nanjit nagu naganan tabuk gaguk nanjit ba nangwaran yuyong gulich magali yalingbu. Item 2 on the agenda is apologies and leaves of absence, and councillors, we have a full house tonight, so we'll move on to item 3 on the agenda, which is the confirmation of minutes. Can I please have a mover and seconder that the minutes from the council meeting held on Tuesday the 27th of September 2022 please be confirmed? Move councillor Sypek, seconded councillor Tyson. I will put that to the vote. All those in favour? That is carried unanimously. Item 4 on the agenda is the declarations of conflicts of interest. Councillors, does anyone wish to declare a conflict on any item on the agenda tonight? Councillor Nation.
Thanks, Mayor. I'll declare a general conflict of interest in item 9.6, approval of interstate travel for advocacy for reasons previously disclosed in writing to the CEO prior to the commencement of this evening's meeting. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Nation. Any other councillors? No. We will now move on to presentations, and we do have a few tonight. Councillor Adams.
Thanks, Mayor. The Victorian Seniors Festival is a major statewide festival for Victorians aged over 60. To celebrate, Council held a special event at the Clock Tower today following the morning music performance. Over 300 people came down to join Council alongside a range of local community groups showcasing activities that entertained, educated and created connections for older adults. Highlights from today included an exciting raffle with 4 lucky people winning prizes from local businesses, stalls showcasing activities and events from local community groups. Council staff are available to talk about programs for older adults, people with disability and carers. Virtual reality experience such as a museum tour, games, e-sport or visit famous artworks such as Van Gogh's house, and live performances by Voices of Moonee Valley Choir, U3A Singing for Fun and recorded groups. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Adams. Before I move on with other presentations, did anyone else have any presentations tonight? No. Well, in that case, I do have a couple of very, very special presentations tonight, and we actually have our first presentation. The first presentation I will do will be to former councillor Jim Cusack, who has joined us tonight. What I have here is Jim's recognition, Councillor Cusack, Jim's recognition of service for being a councillor for the City of Moonee Valley for 15 years from the MAV. Jim obviously had and Mayor, thank you, John, Councillor and Mayor Jim Cusack for 15 years. Jim was a great advocate for the City of Moonee Valley. I was lucky enough to sit next to him in the chamber for 3 of the years, which was, I know that when I was pregnant at the time, I know I used to say that my daughter would know your voice more than she would potentially know my husband's because of how much you spoke so passionately in the chamber. But Jim, you're known so much for your social justice work, your youth work, your housing work. You would stand up and fight the fight, and I remember some really good speeches that you did. So it's my absolute pleasure to be presenting you with this tonight. And on behalf of the City of Moonee Valley, thank you for everything that you've done.
Sorry I didn't get the system right, but I've been out of it for a while.
Suspend standing orders. Thank you, councillors. Thanks, Jim.
Okay, thank you very much, Mayor and councillors, Moonee Valley. It was a great pleasure to be a councillor here for 15 years. Being on council opened up many, many doors for me and gave me the opportunity to pursue a series and a number of ideas on behalf of residents from my own ward area and also across Moonee Valley. And I think and I hope that through my effort that people really did prosper somewhat and that we were all making a difference. Now that I'm out of Moonee Valley and the council, I have this bird's eye view of a few things, especially the use of aged care services. So I'm starting to slide into that. And I keep wondering about a few little bits and pieces that are here and there, but I notice with great glee one of the things that always sat high on our agenda, and that was the growth of the Flemington Community Centre. And I must say that well done for keeping that going and making that really happen. So all the very best to you, and thank you very much. And sorry, before I go anywhere, there were so many fine staff at Moonee Valley during my time, and it's good to see a few of those faces. I must say I lost all of their phone numbers the day that I finished on council. So once again, appreciate what you're doing. I have a great sympathy and love for what you get up to. I understand the difficulties and appreciate that you need to plough through some very, very tough country to get a decent fallow field going. Cheers.
Thank you, Jim. And I'll also acknowledge that fellow previous ward councillor Nicole Marshall is in the public gallery tonight as well. So thank you also for your service to the City of Moonee Valley too. And we do have one other person. Oh, I will resume standing orders at 6:40. I do have one other presentation tonight, which is also for a 15 years of service, but this one is going for even longer. And this is to Councillor John Sypek. So Councillor Sypek, obviously, yeah, you can talk. A former mayor as well. Is that what you want to be to add? Oh, you'll come to me. Okay. Yes, former mayor and obviously current and passionate councillor. You've always got a fine eye for everything the budget. You're very passionate about anything to do with sport, and your connection with the multicultural communities I've seen firsthand, obviously up our neck of the woods. So again, thank you for everything, and I'm looking forward to see what you do for the many more years that you have left on council. Thank you. Councillor Sypek. We will move on to item 6 on the agenda, which is petitions and joint letters. Councillors, do we have any tonight? No. In that case, item 7 on the agenda is public question times, and we do have one question from Kathleen N. Is Kathleen in the public gallery tonight? No. In that case, I will been advised. I didn't see a hand raised. Sorry, we actually have a lot of people in the public gallery, so I just wanted to make sure. So if she's not in the gallery, she has asked for it to be read out. Kathleen's question is, when is Council going to review the Keilor East Leisure Centre outdoor pool winter opening hours, especially weekend hours? Could it be noted the current hours 5:30 to 8:30am and 4 to 7pm Monday to Friday are not conducive for those with parenting responsibilities to get kids ready for school and being home after school and meal prep. A slot between 12 to 2 would attract workers during their lunch break, work from home, and parents who have the opportunity to swim while their kids are at school. And I will refer to the CEO, Helen Sway, to respond.
Thank you, Kathleen. Through the Mayor. Thank you for submitting your feedback on the current winter operating hours for the outdoor pool at Kilo East Nature Centre. Your feedback is noted and will be considered when reporting on the outdoor pool at Kilo East Nature Centre winter opening trial, due to be presented to councillors in May 2023. Thank you.
Thank you, CEO. Item 8 on the agenda is the reports from delegates. Councillors, do we have any reports from delegates this evening? All right, we will now move on to reports. Report 9.1, 4 Homer Street and 687 Mount Alexander Road, Moonee Ponds, lots 3 to 15 and 19 to 22, SP 023884A and land in CP 153150. Construction of a multi-storey building accommodating a ground floor restaurant, residential hotel and works within a road zone. Brackets amendment. Councillors, do I have a motion? Councillor Isa.
Mayor, I'd like to move an alternative motion, please, that reads that in relation to application for review number P970/2020 pursuant to section 77 of the Planning and Environment Act 1987, Council resolves to advise the Victorian Civil and Administrative Tribunal, VCAT and other parties to the application that if it were in a position to decide on the amended plans, that it would have resolved to issue a notice of decision to refuse. Sorry, can I just... Is that the right one? Sorry, Mayor, the manager's just left the room and I just wanted to check that it was the correct preamble because I thought he'd said it wasn't a...
Sorry, Councillor Isa, have you got what's on the screen?
Sorry, there were just, in terms of the preamble, there was just a question of whether it was... sorry, Manager, do you mind just double checking whether the preamble for the...
So what we might do is we might just adjourn the meeting. It's 6:45. Councillors will come back at 6. We'll come back in at approximately 2 minutes. Thank you. Rejoining us online. Sorry about that quick adjournment. Councillor Isa was moving a motion. Councillor Isa, can you please just start from the start? Thank you.
My apologies, Mayor. I'd like to move that in relation to application for review number P970/2020 pursuant to section 77 of the Planning and Environment Act 1987, Council resolves to advise the Victorian Civil and Administrative Tribunal, VCAT, and other parties to the application that if it were in a position to decide on the amended plans, that it would have resolved to issue a notice of decision to refuse to grant an amendment to a permit subject to the following modified grounds. 1, the proposal fails to meet the overarching objective and strategies of clause 15.012S building design of the Moonee Valley Planning Scheme and will result in an urban design outcome that fails to positively contribute to the local context and enhance the public realm. 2, the proposal fails to meet the objectives and strategies contained within Clause 15.031S Heritage Conservation and Clause 15.031L Heritage Conservation of the Moonee Valley Planning Scheme and would result in a development that's not sympathetic and does not integrate with the surrounding heritage buildings. 3, the proposal fails to meet the objectives and strategies of Clause 15.012L Environmentally Sustainable Development of the Moonee Valley Planning Scheme with regard to adverse wind impacts. 4, the proposal fails to meet the objectives and strategies of Clause 15.011L Urban Design of the Moonee Valley Planning Scheme as it fails to appropriately respond to its location and surrounding context. 5, the proposal fails to meet the objectives and provisions of Schedule 1 to the Clause 37.08 Activity Centre Zone of the Moonee Valley Planning Scheme with regard to built form, height, setbacks and wind impacts. 6, the proposal will have an adverse effect on the residential amenity of the neighbouring land. And 7, the development is an unacceptable design response to the area and will have an adverse effect on the equitable development of opportunities for neighbouring land. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Isaac. Can I just confirm that people on this side, can you see the screen? Can you see what's being moved? Are you aware of what's being moved? I believe that's that. Yes. Yep. Okay. Thank you, Councillor Isaac. Is there a seconder for that motion? Councillor Hodgson. Councillor Isaac, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thanks, Mayor. This is a complex, protracted and hard-fought application. To quote someone involved in one of the multiple hearings involved in this application. I'm not going to try to summarise here what's been ongoing for almost 8 years, I think it is, with various twists and turns. The net result of where we are today is that there's a VCAT hearing in a couple of weeks for some amended plans have been tabled for that hearing, hence this coming back to Council. The hearing is a follow-on from the decision of the 9th of June 2020 at which Council refused the application on 9 grounds. The 9th of those grounds took the application all the way to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court made a ruling and remitted the application back to VCAT and that's being heard commencing the 31st of October. The amended plans reduce the number of... So the amended plans have been submitted for the hearing that's upcoming. The amended plans reduce the number of hotel rooms by 35, taking it from 335 to 300, and increases the number of car spaces from 94 to 121, and the number of bike spaces doubled. The height is reduced marginally by a couple of metres, and that's probably the... there are some other amendments around the layout and the external configuration. However, when Council considered this particular permit in June 2020, it refused the permit on the grounds that I've also just read now, slightly adjusted to accommodate changes in the planning scheme between then and now, and the removal of the objection based on cars given the increase in the car parking. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Isaac. Councillor Hodgson.
Thanks, Mayor. Look, this is a really complicated application. It's in a really, really prominent part of our city. It's right on Mount Alexander Road. Most residents in Moonee Valley, in travelling around our city, would drive past it. And it's really important that we take this one really seriously and make sure that we're building something that, you know, fits in with our design and vision for the city. It's obviously a permit that was granted, you know, in various forms, originally as 100% residential dwellings with office and retail space. This application is for 100% residential hotel rooms, so no permanent dwellings, and for a restaurant rather than office and retail. And one of the things that we're able to do when, you know, we have an application is we assess what the net community benefit is for building the building that has been applied for. And when it has housing availability and when it has office space in an activity centre zone, those are factors that may have contributed to the decision to grant a permit in the first place. Given that This amendment applies to change that and changes the use to being permanent, 100% temporary accommodation and removing that office space and retail. I think that we do have grounds to, as Councillor Isers put forward a refusal, to show our objection to VCAT and not approve this amended application. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Hodgson. Would any other councillor like to speak on this motion? Councillor Bedio.
Thanks, Mayor. I'd like to move an amendment, if I may.
Thanks, Councillor Bedio.
I'd like to include an additional point 8 to read that the proceeding does not support orderly and proper planning principles.
Thank you, Councillor Bedio. Is there, I will just wait for it to come up onto the screen just to make sure we've got the right wording. Have you, have you sent that through to governance?
It's in the pack.
It's in the pack, governance?
Well,
You just,
I can send it through, but it's
Councillor
an
Bedio, do you
extract.
just want to run it over?
Yep.
We won't adjourn the meeting because we only have to run about 4 metres for anyone who's watching online. We just need to make sure that all councillors know what's being moved. And it needs to go up onto the big screen. So that's what's happening at the moment.
Sorry, while I'm still moving the amendment.
Sorry, Councillor Bedio. So what do you, well, just tell me what you'd like to move, Councillor Bedio.
Remove the and off point 6 and move that to point 7 at the end of point 6. Yeah.
Sorry, Councillor Bedio. I think we just need to make sure that it's right on the screen. Do we need to adjourn the meeting?
That's fine. That's right.
Oh, that is correct.
Yep.
So what is on the screen is correct?
Correct. Yep.
Okay, councillors, can everyone see what is on the screen? Yes, everyone understands? Okay, that is moved by Councillor Bedio. Is there a seconder for this amendment? Councillor Nation. Councillor Bedio, would you like to speak to the amendment, please?
Yes, Mayor. Look, I'll be pretty brief. As Councillor Isers stated, it's quite a complex and convoluted history to this application. It's been with us for a number of years. In my opinion, I'm concerned that this Section 72, which is an application to amend an existing planning permit, is an attempt to grandfather what is a very different permit that was endorsed at a time where the development guidelines in Moonee Ponds Activity Centre was significantly less constrained to what it is now, in order to benefit essentially a brand new use. Our officers have worked really hard, and council has worked really hard over the years to improve.
Sorry, Councillor Tyson. Councillor Sypek. Thank you. Sorry, please continue, Councillor Bedio.
Our officers have worked really hard over the last couple of years with council and at DELP to improve the design and built form of the Moonee Ponds Activity Centre, largely in response to what is the sheer heights that we saw with the Caden developments a few years ago and the community reaction from that. And in my opinion, the new ACZ represents a much better result in terms of net community benefits, in terms of building heights and building controls. I'm on the belief that the applicants in this respect are trying to utilise what is a loophole, being an amendment to adopt less restrictive building heights and guidelines in order to improve a brand new use in what should be a new permit application as opposed to a Section 72 amendment. And in that case, I'm proposing that the proceeding does not support an orderly and proper use of planning principles.
Thank you, Councillor Bedio. Councillor Nation. Would anyone else like to speak on this amendment? Councillor Tyson.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a point of clarification to Councillor Bedio, and I might be incorrect here because the screen's quite far away from me. Did he intend to have the word "the" in his amendment.
That the proceeding does not support orderly and proper planning principles.
Through you, Mayor, if I could just see the top of the motion. Sorry,
On the grounds.
I think in either case, the officers understand the intent.
Yeah, so it's in there. It is as moved.
I can take the that off, but I've already moved it, so if someone would need to amend it.
If that answers your point of clarification.
Yeah, thanks. I'll move an amendment to remove the word.
Sorry, we're actually got a live amendment, so we just have to wait until this one goes through. Thanks, Councillor Tyson. Councillor Tyson, did you want to speak on the amendment? Would anybody else like to speak on the amendment? Councillor Isa.
Thanks. This is an incredibly complicated application, and there's just a difference of opinion, I think, amongst ward councillors about whether this is an appropriate ground for refusal. And I completely respect Councillor Bedio's point of view and moving this. However, it's not a ground that I support. My understanding, and look, my understanding of the Supreme Court case was that that this would not be something that we could ask our lawyers to put forward at VCAT. However, I'm not a lawyer on this matter. I guess my concern is that I feel we would need some clear legal advice around this particular line of argument before trying to mount a case on it, and we just don't have that advice to hand. I don't want to put our representatives who are ready to go for the case that starts on the 31st of October, sort of distract them with something. There are 7 grounds of refusal that we're asking them to research and defend at VCAT on the 31st of October. I don't feel that the 8th ground has legs, and I don't want them to be distracted looking into that one, and for the other 7 grounds of refusal to then miss out on being given the fullest defence possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Isa. Anybody else on this amendment? Councillor Hodgson.
Thanks, Mayor, and I agree. I think this is a really complex question. What I would say is that in speaking to the motion earlier, I was indicating that we have a very different application in front of us than the original one that was moved. What I think that this grounds of refusal does is put into words something that might be mounted as an argument to show that. I'm not sure whether it'll be the grounds upon which VCAT's decision hangs, but I don't mind putting it out there as an option to continue to voice our objection to this process. Thanks.
Thanks, Councillor Hodgson. Any other councillor? Councillor Bedio, would you like to close on the amendment?
Look, not much to add other than on Councillor, just in response to Councillor Isa's comments. I do agree we need to ensure that our legal team is best prepared in order to, I suppose, support Council's decision. My gut feeling is to provide them with enough grounds that they can utilise, and if they so determine that this is a ground that they could take and run with, then they've got that endorsement from Council to do so. So I really urge my colleagues to support this amendment.
Thank you, Councillor Bedio. I will put that amendment to the vote. All those in favour? That is Councillor Tyson, Councillor Sypek, Councillor Sharp, Councillor Nation, Councillor Adams, Councillor Bedio, Councillor Hodgson, Councillor Byrne. All those against? That is Councillor Isa. The amendment is carried. So the motion is as stands. Would anybody else like to speak on the substantive? Councillor Tyson.
I'll move an amendment to remove the word "the" from 8.
Thank you. Is there a seconder for that amendment? Councillor Bedio. Councillor Tyson, would you like to speak on the amendment? Councillor Bedio, would you like to speak on the amendment? Any other councillor like to speak on the amendment? I will put the amendment to the vote. All those in favour? And that is carried unanimously. So we have the substantive motion on the screen. Sorry, just on the screen, so the word "that" was struck out. That. No, that is struck out, was what was done. Thank you. Councillors, that's enough, thank you. It is what was moved and voted on, that the word "that" was struck out. Now, the substantive we have had moved by Councillor Isa, seconded by Councillor Hodgson. I don't believe anyone else has actually spoken on the substantive. Would anybody else like to speak on the substantive? No. Councillor Isa, would you like to close?
Look, only just to clarify that the problem with the "that" was that it turned it into a noun, but it's meant to be the verb, that proceeding with this action or the proceeding with this application does not support orderly and proper planning principles. That's why the "that" needed to be removed. And look, just to reiterate that I respect where Councillor Bettio and Councillor Hodgson, my fellow ward colleagues, are coming from in that, in supporting that, and it'll be interesting to see where it goes and how this proceeds. We'll all learn a lot from this next stage of this long case. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Isa. I will put that to the vote. All those in favour? That is Councillor Tyson, Councillor Sypek, Councillor Sharp, Councillor Adams, Councillor Bedio, Councillor Hodgson, Councillor Isa, Councillor Byrne. All those against is Councillor Nation. That motion is carried. Item 9.2 on the agenda is 48 Hood Street, Airport West, lot 974 on PS 008376, construction of a 4-storey building and use of the land as a caretaker's house, Section 72 amendment. Councillors, do I have a motion? Councillor Tyson.
Move the officer's recommendation, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Tyson. And a seconder? Councillor Sypek. Councillor Tyson, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thanks, Mayor. This is a really straightforward planning application. A Section 72 amendment is a modification to an existing permit. The permit was issued in 2020. The substantive changes to the permit are an increase in office space, removal of a caretaker's house, so residential use, a reduction in height, so it's really quite uncontroversial. There were 0 objections to the amendment, so more than happy to support it.
Thank you, Councillor Tyson. Councillor Sypek, would any other councillor like to speak to this motion? No, I will put that to the vote. All those in favour? That is carried unanimously. Item 9.3 on the agenda is the response to notice of motion at number 2022-13, parking issues in the Strathnavor Reserve Precinct. Councillors, do I have a motion? Councillor Nation.
Move a motion in the form of the officer's recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Nation. And a seconder? Councillor Bedio. Councillor Nation, would you like to speak to the motion?
Look, the report's pretty self-explanatory, and I would like to thank officers for acting on this notice of motion promptly, because it enabled some of the parking review to occur still in the winter sports season, which was really important, because the residents in Strathnavor Avenue that originally brought this issue to the attention of ward councillors in a consultation meeting, their main gripe was the traffic, particularly in game days. I think that this, when this notice of motion was moved and a council resolution was formed, it didn't include all the parts of the notice of motion. So while this proposed recommendation from officers will hopefully appease some of the issues that the Strathnava AV residents were experiencing, potentially as a precinct-wide review, there will still be some issues, and this may potentially, particularly Part D, which is the parking controls in Strathnava Ave, this may just push the problem further up the road. That said, I'm content with this recommendation primarily because, as I said before, it was the residents of Strathnava Avenue that had some quite worrying stories to tell, particularly about emergency vehicles and access of their street during any game day at Strathnava Reserve, and therefore this outcome, I think, will hopefully appease their problems. As I said, I don't think it's an entire precinct-wide approach, and I feel like it may create some issues elsewhere. But I, again, commend the officers for their prompt action on this notice of motion, the extensive review that they've given parking in the region, and therefore I would commend this recommendation to councillors for their support. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Nation. Councillor Bedio. No, would any other councillor like to speak on this motion? Councillor Hodgson.
Thanks, Mayor. Just to make the comment, I think, Councillor Nation raises a good point that the point D might be viewed as just pushing the problem a bit further up the road. But my understanding from when we were, reading through and discussing the report is that rather than pushing it to another place, it in fact stops it from being consolidated in one place. So the solution might in fact be to spread the issue across so that one street's not taking the load of that concerned parking. So, I'm very optimistic that, if we go through this consultation process and we have a look at the ways that we can use parking restrictions to help ease that problem, that we might be able to get a solution that benefits everyone.
Thank you, Councillor Hodgson. Anybody else on this one? Councillor Sypek.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm just going to be very cautious about this. I remember many years ago when the DFO first opened up and the residents of Dublin Street were concerned about exactly the same things, about emergency vehicles, the whole lot. And council took the decision to block off that road, make it a one-way street. And then the next street put in a petition as well, and then the following street put in a petition as well to make it one-way traffic, and it went all the way down to Woodland Street. So I'm just very cautious about setting a precedent here where we're going to have every single street doing this. So I'm. I was one of the ones who was more interested in having the upper level car park, but that's now gone to God and will never be returned. But the other option that we might have here is actually putting parallel parking along Mascoma Street to increase the parking spots. So that way you take the pressure off the internal streets and the council streets and have it on Mascoma Street. But the thing is, if we do it there, I would probably be more inclined to put it on the other side rather than where the houses are, and you lose parking spots where the driveways are. But if you put parallel parking on the other side, you increase the parking spots along Mascoma Street, forever and a day. But look, it's an option. It's not a reality. It's just a thought. Maybe the officers can have a look at that to see whether the traffic management might work. Look, it probably doesn't work. I don't know. But I think that could be an option that we're talking about, maybe seeing how we can fix this parking issue. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Sypek. Would anybody else like to speak on this? Councillor Sharp.
Thank you, Mayor. Happy to support this report from Councillor Nation's notice of motion a little while back. I particularly like the idea of installing, or possibility of installing dynamic signage to prevent the vehicles unnecessarily entering the one-lane access way down to the car park. I actually think that could be incredibly beneficial, and I really thank the officers for thinking outside the box with some solutions to this issue down there, and I do hope that when we're updated on the outcome of that investigation for the dynamic signage, that it's positive, because I think that will have a great impact. So, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sharp. Any other councillor? Councillor Nation, would you like to close?
Thanks, Mayor, and thank you, councillors, for your comments and I perceive as support as well. Councillor Seifert, I'm glad you've told us you started those road closures, because I think we're, what are we up to? Windsor's done. Now Hollywood's come to us, and I don't think we're at Cranwell yet. But there's been some really positive outcomes in that precinct for those residents and appease their concerns. And thank you, Councillor Sharp, as well. I think that that reference to the dynamic signage, it's a fairly simple thing, but you know, we go into a lot of car parks throughout our city where it tells you how many spaces there are remaining in the car park, and you know whether or not to proceed or not proceed. So the ability for people not to go down that one-way access way and get stuck and caught trying to do a U-turn, I think that's a very pragmatic and solution that may appease some of the issues, and there's been emergency vehicle issues down within the car park as well. Finally, again, I just want to say a thank you to those residents that raised this initial issue within a consultation. It probably goes to show that when we are doing any sort of council business, people will raise issues with us, and as councillors, you know, we will champion those issues, and if there's a solution that we think can be found, we'll try to seek a solution. So again, as I said when I was speaking to the motion, those residents of Strathnaver Ave who brought this issue toward councillors within a consultation, hopefully this resolution, if successful and if the consultation proceeds in a positive manner, will give them a little bit of peace of mind and quiet on game days moving forward. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Nation, and I will put that to the vote. All those in favour? That is carried unanimously. Item 9.4 on the agenda is civic recognition, Nancy Taylor Queen's Park Swimming Pool. Councillors, do I have a motion? Councillor Hodgson.
Thanks, Mayor. I'd like to move the officer's recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Hodgson, and a seconder. Councillor Isa. Councillor Hodgson, would you like to speak on the motion?
I will, Mayor. Look, this is a really lovely one. A local resident came to us with a recommendation or a request that we recognise Ms Nancy Taylor, who dedicated a lot of her her volunteer time to supporting the Save the Moonee Save the Queen's Park swimming pool when there was a threatened closure in the 80s and early 90s. To have her recognised in a plaque in our Queen's Park pool. I'll read a little bit from the submission letter. So Nancy Taylor was a long-term resident of Moonee Valley. During her lifetime, Nancy advocated strongly for local residents. She historically led the resident fight back for two well-known campaigns, one being the closure of the Essendon Hospital and the other being the closing of Queen's Park Pool in the 80s. Nancy was an advocate for the local Queen's Park pool and was dismayed at the prospect of the pool being closed. She rallied local residents, collected signatures and led the charge for the local resident campaign to save the pool from closure. The pool had to run on a very small allocated budget, and Nancy did all she could to help the pool operate on its limited budget. She volunteered on a regular basis at the pool, assisting with sweeping and cleaning. She took it upon herself to upkeep the gardens around the pool, watering and weeding the garden year-round. She also took offcuts of plants from her own garden and replanted them around the pool. She assisted with the painting of the change rooms and with the allocation of old lockers being taken to the pool from the Ascot Vale Leisure Centre when the centre underwent refurbishment. Nancy was also well known for her community spirit. She was recognised with a Citizen of the Year award in 2002. And she was also an active member involved in the Moonee Valley Residents Association, Local Neighbourhood Watch, Essendon RSL, and did a lot of catering for RSL events. So I think it's a really wonderful thing that we're able to recognise Nancy Taylor's contribution to Moonee Valley, particularly to the swimming pool, through the civic recognition, pulling up the name of our policy. Through our civic recognition and naming policy, we have a few criteria that Nancy's obviously met, and I commend the officer's recommendation to install a plaque at the pool recognising this and, remembering the whole movement and all of the people involved in saving the Queen's Park pool for future enjoyment.
Thank you, Councillor Hodgson. Councillor Isa.
Thanks, Mayor. Look, I didn't know Nancy, and it's my loss, because she sounds like a real fighter and someone who would go to great extremes to fight for the things that she knew would serve the community well. And I know that most of us around the table would see that as something that is what inspires us to be involved in public life and community life, and Nancy Taylor sounds as though she absolutely epitomised that. I think one of the loveliest things that I read about Nancy Taylor in the messages that we read about her was that Nancy actually didn't know how to swim. And so her efforts to save the pool were utterly selfless, that this was about community. It was nothing to do with her. And her efforts to weed the garden, to do what she knew how to do, which was obviously gardening and maintenance, to contribute what she could to the important place for the community, is also what, there's a real message in that. We all just bring to anything our skills and what we can do, and Nancy brought to this task her skills, which were campaigning as well as gardening, obviously. Said in the chamber, I think it was last meeting, that I would love our municipality to have little plaques everywhere with these stories of people who've lived in Moonee Valley, who've really contributed to our community. And if we start, or if this is the first story in our council term that we can put in a plaque in the swimming pool, then that's really lovely. I hope we can have many more stories like this throughout the municipality. And thank you very much to Jill, who brought this to the attention of council, and to Nancy's family, who've consented to this. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Isa. Any other councillors? Councillor Nation.
Thanks, Mayor, and happy to support. And I think history that's written down is only good if there's people there to actually read it, and that's why little plaques like this, plaques like the one up in LT Thompson Reserve that we did recently for the late Paul Lyons, street sign plaques like the one out the front for Kellaway Ave being the only street in our municipality that was named after a female that lived in our city, named after Eliza Kellaway, who was involved with the founding of the Maternal Child and Health Services in the then city of Essendon. These little parts of our history are much better being out there in the community and written down, so people who aren't seeking them can still read them and can still get a snapshot of the amazing history of our city. And therefore, I do hope that this is just the start of a number of plaques throughout our city. We've got a really informative branding and signage guidelines. If you haven't seen the Paul Lyons one up in LT Thompson Reserve, it's got a nice photo, and it's hip height. It's on a little bit of 45-degree angle, so people just see it walking by. They don't actually have to be specifically looking for a plaque on a set seat. So we've spoken in this chamber about a number of decisions to name streets after prominent local members, and I think that's the end step. That's quite a hard thing to find a new street, have a newly created street, and then name it after someone. But this is an easier, more accessible way to recognise fantastic people in our city. So I commend this, and for anyone who may be watching and has a story about a prominent individual that has helped shape our city, then please get in touch with your ward councillors and share those stories with us, because we would love to hear them. And it might be that there is another plaque, much like the one that will go in for Nancy, that we can roll out in our city. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Nation. Would any other councillor like to speak on this motion? Councillor Hodgson, would you like to close?
Thanks, Mayor, and thanks, councillors, for your comments. Queen's Park pool is one of the pools that I think has the most school swimming carnivals. So we have a lot of kids that visit Queen's Park at least once a year, and it would be great for them to know and understand that story, and know that even though, you know, sometimes they find it a bit cold, we're very lucky to have that asset in Moonee Valley. I'll just once again thanks Jill for bringing it to our attention through the application and the letter, and yes, hopefully we can get some support tonight and get that plaque on the wall.
Thank you, Councillor Hodgson. I will put that to the vote. All those in favour? And that is carried unanimously. Item 9.5 on the agenda is the award of contract number 203173, a panel contract for minor civil works. Councillors, do I have a motion? Councillor Tyson.
I'll move the officer's recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Tyson. Is there a seconder? Councillor Nation. Councillor Tyson, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Mayor. This is a significant tender that we have here. It's a very large amount of money. I'm pleased, though, that we have a very competitive process. So we've got 5 organisations that we're awarding, suppliers that we're awarding this contract to. The process had 10 very competitive tenderers, along with many more who submitted for information and everything else. I'm confident that I think we've diversified our risk enough here that we've got multiple suppliers who have ranked very highly on our independent process, and I'm more than happy to go ahead with it on that basis. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Tyson. Councillor Nation.
Thanks, Mayor. Happy to support. I would concur that the ability for us to have a panel is important, because a lot of the time minor civil works, we need to go on to attend to particularly safety issues relatively quickly. So to have a suite of companies to call on, it makes our work more efficient and timely, but also, as Councillor Tyson said, reduces that risk of such a large contract sitting with one organisation. I will also commend officers for trying to seek out another municipal partner. So we did look at partnering with the City of Merribeck to look to see if services could be shared. Look, it wasn't possible or worthwhile moving forward for this contract, but I think that is a great way of looking at where we can get, I guess, better bang for buck, and by working in collaboration with other councils, particularly local councils, where work such as this will overlap. So happy to commend this, and for other councillors' recommendation. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Nation. Any other councillor like to speak on this motion? Councillor Tyson, would you like to close? I will put that to the vote. All those in favour? Is carried unanimously. Item 9.6 on the agenda is the approval of interstate travel for advocacy, Windy Hill Development. Councillors, do I have... I will not call for a motion. I will ask for Councillor Nation to leave the chamber, as Councillor Nation previously declared a conflict of interest. Okay, now Councillor Nation has left the chamber, I will ask if anyone has a motion. Councillor Adams.
Thanks, Mayor. I'll move an alternative, please.
Thank you, Councillor Adams.
That Council resolves to approve approve the attendance of Mayor and Chief Executive Officer or their delegates and Buckley Ward councillors if they so choose to the Essendon Football Club in brackets EFC close brackets organised advocacy meetings with key federal government ministers to be held in Canberra on the 26th of October 2022 in accordance with the Councillor Expenses Policy. B, approve their attendance at an alternative date in case there is a date change by the Essendon Football Club to allow Council to support the advocacy for the Windy Hill development. C, confer to the CEO, Mayor and all councillors discretion to communicate the relevant advocacy contents of the final council resolution on report 13.2 Windy Hill Precinct Redevelopment Project of 14th of December 2021 to state and federal government members, relevant advisors and Essendon Football Club. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Adams. I believe you didn't mention my name, is that correct? You just said the Mayor and the CEO?
Yes,
Yep.
that's correct.
If we can just fix that up on the screen. Thank you, Councillor Adams. Is there a seconder for that motion? Councillor Sharp. Councillor Adams, would you like to speak to the motion?
I will, thank you, Mayor. The Essendon Football Club has invited Council to meet with key federal government ministers at their hosted event in Canberra on the 26th of October 2022 to advocate for the Windy Hill redevelopment project. As part of Council's long-term vision MV 2040, Windy Hill was identified as a defining element of Essendon's character and committed to advocate for its public activation. Activating Windy Hill is also a priority identified in Council's Advocacy Strategy 2022 to 2025. In partnership with the Essendon Football Club, Council is seeking additional financial partners primarily from the federal and state governments, and so this motion is seeking to endorse for the Mayor, CEO or their delegates to attend this meeting in Canberra. Essendon Football Club have confirmed advocacy meetings with the Minister for Government Services and our local member, the Honourable Bill Shorten MP, and the Minister for Sports, the Honourable Annika Wells MP. Meetings with other government ministers are to be confirmed. I have included in the motion Buckley Ward councillors to attend the event should they wish to do so. The reason for this is because the timing of this event is the day before our meeting of council to elect the Mayor and Deputy Mayor, which could mean we have a new Mayor in the chair. And so for the sake of continuity for the purpose of advocacy of the Windy Hill development, I think it's necessary that there is Buckley Ward councillors present. This is a project I'm particularly excited about. The iconic Windy Hill grounds have been a prominent sporting location for more than a century, but the facilities are tired and we have an excellent opportunity to deliver new life into this reserve that recognises and meets the future needs of our local community. And we want to send a strong message to federal and state government that we are serious about this advocacy position. I hope that my colleagues agree and support this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Adams. Councillor Sharp.
Thank you, Mayor. Happy to support Councillor Adams' alternative. I think it is incredibly important for us as councillors to be part of these meetings with Essendon Football Club. The reinvigoration and energisation of Windy Hill is obviously something that will benefit the community greatly. And we need to do all we can to make it happen, basically, really. It is one of our top advocacy projects. So I certainly look forward to us attending these meetings. I am not able to go to Canberra, but I'm certainly happy to support any Buckley Ward councillor and obviously the Mayor and CEO to attend. Like I said, it's really vitally important. So we need to be on the front foot with this, and showing our support with the football club, I think, will be incredibly beneficial. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Sharp. Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? Councillor Isa.
Thanks, Mayor. I'd like to move an amendment, please, to remove all of the words following "to" after 14th December 2021.
Sorry, just repeat that.
To remove the words "to state and federal government member, relevant advisors and Essendon Football Club."
Yep. Just wait until that is updated. Councillors, do we understand what the amendment is? Yep. Councillors, is there a seconder for that amendment? Councillor Hodgson. Seconded. Councillor Isa, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thanks, Mayor. So when this matter was considered in December last year, it was dealt with as a confidential matter, and the resolution was confidential for all councillors bar the CEO and Mayor, and that made sense at the time. But at almost 12 months later, as advocacy has proceeded, this has presented increasing limitations. So I appreciate that the point C is conferring the same capacity to all councillors to communicate. However, limiting this to the phrase that was put there, to state and federal government member, relevant advisors and Essendon Football Club means that the advocacy can only be to 2 MPs, relevant advisors and Essendon Football Club. I think this is, in a practical sense, this is really quite difficult. It means that we can communicate to 2 MPs, relevant advisors and the Essendon Football Club, and they can then communicate to anybody else, but we can't communicate to them. So if we're standing in a group and there's Essendon Football Club, different people, the council can talk to someone, they can talk to the other person. It's just an impracticality that I think we don't need, particularly if we're trying to advocate for this with our best foot forward. I think also that there's no need to circumscribe the advocacy to the Essendon Football Club and to MPs. There's community members who live nearby who are part of it, hopefully part of an advocacy project as well. I would hate to think that the advocacy for this is limited to people outside of community rather than ultimately the community around Windy Hill who would benefit. So I think, just to, as I say, as a matter of practicality, it's just not wise of us to limit councillors to only talking to some people, and then those people can talk to whoever they want. I don't think it will make us look terribly professional in our advocacy.
Thank you, Councillor Isa. Councillor Hodgson.
Thanks, Mayor. I won't add too much, just to say, I support this as an amendment, just so that we can, as a councillor group, really get behind the advocacy efforts to one of what is, I think, a really important part of our advocacy strategy, revitalising Windy Hill.
Thank you, Councillor Hodgson. Would anybody else like to speak to this amendment? Councillor Sharp.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't agree with the comments that have been made in regards to point C, and I thank Councillor Adams for her efforts to make sure that point C in particular read correctly, because the motion that we moved back in 2021 was a confidential motion, and it was confidential for a reason. So in order to go forward and meet with government members, advisors and the Essendon Football Club, obviously point C needed to include those people in order to be able to advocate correctly and appropriately, whilst also acknowledging and recognising that the 14th of December 2021 resolution that was made was confidential. So thank you, Councillor Adams. I think what you've done here is certainly the right way to go.
Thank you, Councillor Sharp. Would anybody else like to speak on the amendment? Councillor Sypek.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I can see both sides of the argument here, Madam Mayor, but what I haven't seen with Moonee Valley is we don't do enough advocacy. We don't do enough travelling to Canberra. We don't do enough travelling to Spring Street, Madam Mayor, to visit some of these decision makers who have always constantly just bypassed Moonee Valley with a lot of things. Okay, we get our fair share, but I think it's time that we maybe up the ante, and thank you, Councillor Adams, for bringing this up, because I think the more that we have up there, the more pressure we can put on, and the more results can we get out of this advocacy strategy. So I'm all for it, and I'm all for more advocacy if that's what it takes. That's what it takes.
Thank you, Councillor Sypek. Would any other councillor like to speak to the amendment? No. Councillor Isa, would you like to close on the amendment?
Mayor, I note that in the course of the debate on the amendment, the letter S has been added to government member and now reads government members. Could I just clarify, please, what was read by the mover as to whether it was meant to be member or, well, not what meant to be, whether member or members was read, because when I began speaking to the amendment, it read as member.
So my understanding, because this went through governance, is that it dropped off. It is what has been circulated in the pack prior. For whatever reason, it didn't go on the screen, and that it was the S on the end. And it probably should have been picked up, so yes, did have to get added in on the screen.
The S was included in the circulation of the email.
Thanks, Councillor Adams.
Sorry, my question was what was read, not what was included in the circulation of the email.
Councillor Adams, did you?
My intention was to read the word members.
Thank you, Councillor Adams.
Am I closing?
Yes.
Thanks. So I just need to clarify that when I was speaking before to say that it was referring to two MPs, that was why I referred to that, because what was actually in the motion was just two MPs. So I just needed to explain why I made that comment. As I stated before, oh, look, it's okay. I don't need to respond to the comments that were made. It's fine. I just needed to clear that up. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Isa. I will put the amendment to the vote. All those in favour? Sorry, up or down, Councillor Sypek? Down. That is Councillor Hodgson and Councillor Isa. All those against is Councillor Tyson, Councillor Sypek, Councillor Sharp, Councillor Adams, Councillor Bedio, Councillor Byrne. That amendment is lost. On the substantive, we have had Councillor Adams speak, Councillor Sharp speak, and Councillor Isa, I don't believe you spoke, but you moved the amendment. Would anybody like to speak on the substantive? Councillor Isa.
Thanks for that. Look, I'm not going to support the substantive. It's really important to me that this advocacy be done properly and well, and good advocacy involves the whole community. It doesn't involve talking secretively to some stakeholders and not involving community. When community is cut out of advocacy, that's when community members then question what that advocacy is all about. And I think it's absolutely imperative, for the success of this project, for community members to be involved and to be part of the talking, the discussions, and council's advocacy at different levels of government. The way this motion reads means that we can't talk to other councils about it. We can't talk to other partners who might be interested in councillors can't talk to other partners who might express interest in this. That councillors can't talk to any other group who is currently situated at Windy Hill and might be impacted by the project. So I think in limiting the advocacy to a very limited number of people, we are not doing the best advocacy, and it's going to come back to bite us. So I won't be supporting this motion. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Isa. Would any other councillor like to speak on this motion? Councillor Bedio.
Thanks, Mayor. Look, I'll be brief. I'm going to support this motion. I think it is really important that we as representatives of the community take part and go along in this advocacy. Obviously, Windy Hill is so intertwined with the Essendon Footy Club, but as we all know, it means so much more to us in our community. And I'm really hoping that we'll be able to, as a community, be able to advocate to get a good outcome in this one. So I really am happy to support this, and if it does pass, I really look forward to hearing back from my colleagues when they return from Canberra.
Thank you, Councillor Bedio. Any other councillor like to speak on this motion? Councillor Hodgson.
Thanks, Mayor. I just wanted to say, look, I do share Councillor Isa's concerns. I will be supporting the motion because I do think this is a really important project and want to support the continued advocacy of this, but I do hope that we can continue the conversation about how that advocacy can best deliver the best outcome for the community. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Hodgson. Any other councillor? Councillor Adams, would you like to close?
I will, thanks, Mayor. The Windy Hill is in the advocacy position, and it's only some of the finer sensitive details that can't be said. So we've got different stakeholders involved, and I know that at every turn we will be, turning out to our community for consultation. So I think those concerns aren't valid at this stage. I think we will be consulting with our community at different stages of the process. So, thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Adams. I will put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? That is Councillor Tyson, Councillor Sypek, Councillor Sharp, Councillor Adams, Councillor Bedio, Councillor Hodgson, Councillor Byrne. All those against? That is Councillor Isa. That motion is carried. We will, if we can get Councillor Nation back into the room before we move to item 10 on the agenda. For those who are joining us online, Councillor Nation declared a conflict of interest on item 9.6, so vacated the room. And so before we go to item 10 on the agenda, we just have to wait to make sure that all councillors are back in the room. We just need to get him. Thank you, Councillor Nation. We were just about to move on to item 10 on the agenda, which is notices of motion, and we do have one tonight. So item 10.1, I call on Councillor Sharp to present your notice of motion titled Notice of Motion number 2022-23 Signage Enforcement Moratorium.
Thank you, Mayor. Take notice that at the meeting of Council, it is my intention to move the Council resolves that A moratorium is placed on enforcing the strict requirements of the Moonee Valley Planning Scheme in relation to signage on land within public park and recreation and public use zones. Signage that complies with the new community standards for signage in sporting reserves will not be subject to Council enforcement under this moratorium. B, the moratorium will be in place from 1st of November 2022 until 31st of October 2023 to assess the community response to and effectiveness of the community standards for signage in sporting reserves across a full year of sporting activity. The community standards for signage in sporting reserves would form a component of a potential planning scheme amendment. C, Council receives a report prior to the end of October 2023 summarising community feedback regarding the community standards for signage in sporting reserves and an assessment of the effectiveness of the standards in managing signage in sporting reserves. And point D, note that enforcement of the planning scheme requirements with respect to signage in public park and recreation zone and public use zone is an operational matter to be managed by council officers.
Thank you, Councillor Sharp. Do I have a seconder for that motion? Councillor Bedio. Councillor Sharp, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Mayor. I won't labour the point on this too much because I really don't think I need to, because basically this notice of motion I believe is just a sensible approach whilst we are currently consulting on the draft community standards for signage in sporting reserves. So whilst we're currently consulting and we will then implement the standards that are endorsed, having this moratorium extended will ensure that the draft or the standards that are endorsed are able to be assessed properly by having, and with full community involvement as well, and by having summer and winter codes in operation while assessing how these community standards have effectively gone over the next year. So pretty much points A to D are all really self-explanatory, like they really are. I'm looking forward to getting the community standards for signage in sporting reserves signed off, so at least we have a way forward for the next year, and this moratorium is just seeking to ensure that that all happens in parallel, I guess. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Sharp. Councillor Bedio.
Thanks, Mayor, and thanks, Councillor Sharp, for this notice of motion. I'm happy to support. I think it makes a lot of sense. The current moratorium will lapse shortly, and council officers have been working really hard with our community sporting groups to develop a new set of community signage standards. Those standards are not the standards that are reflected in the planning scheme. The planning scheme is very strict for our PPRZ and PUZ zones. I think you'll find that there are very little municipalities or sporting clubs around Victoria that are actually limited to the scope that is specified in the planning scheme, and that's due to a variety of reasons. One of the big ones being the need for sponsorship to support our community sports. Sponsorship is one of the biggest ways that they stay afloat. There are sensitivities to this, and I do understand that, but as we work towards developing our community sporting signage regulations and trialling them out over the next 12 months, I think it's good to maintain the moratorium so that any teething issues can be worked on, as the proposed or the draft community signage standards is significantly more constrained than what a number of clubs are currently doing. So there will be some challenges in that, and we need to be supporting our clubs, and we don't need to take an enforcement tone, but we need to take a supportive tone, because this may affect drastically the financial the ability for clubs to take in revenue from sponsorships, no doubt. So we do need to work with our clubs. We value our sporting clubs in Moonee Valley. We don't want to be seen to be punishing them for doing what they need to do to survive. That being said, we are working behind the scenes, and our officers are working behind the scenes on a longer term approach, whether that be attempting to get our community signage standards endorsed in some form in the planning scheme, I think is an ideal. But I think this is a really good move, first move, and I'm happy to support. Thanks, Councillor Sharp, for putting this forward.
Thank you, Councillor Bedio. Would any other councillor like to speak on this motion? Councillor Isa.
Mayor, I'd like to move an amendment that I've just circulated. I hope people can see that. It's just a new point A and then renumbering The others, the amendment to read, in accordance with the Council Resolution of 24th of August 2021, receive a report on the findings of the consultation that has informed the new community standards for signage in sporting reserves prior to their implementation.
Thanks, Councillor Isa. Sorry, so just to confirm, the other 4 dot points stay the same. This is in addition to the other 4,
Yeah,
not
it's
replacing.
Sorry, I said a new point A, didn't I? I meant I know.
So you wanted a new point A, but
a
then
new
the rest
point
to
A
be...
and the rest to
Yep.
be renumbered. I think
As
that's
per
what
on
we
the
said,
screen?
actually. Yep. I think nothing's moved yet.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Isa. Is there a seconder for that amendment? Councillor Adams. Councillor Isa, would you like to speak to the amendment?
Thank you, Mayor. There have been various times when this issue has come to the chamber, and one of those times was on the 24th of August last year. I think that was in fact the last time that we debated this, and at that meeting there was a very lengthy resolution that was the subject of quite some debate, and one of the points in that resolution, I think it was point F. Yes, it was point F. Read, provide a report back to Council on the findings from the consultation in Part E. And then it said within the next 12 months. Now, we have passed that 12 months, but the delay was due to other matters and is understandable. But I don't wish us, in proceeding any further with this, I'd be really hopeful that we don't lose that point F from the resolution of the August 2021. I've been expecting a report back to Council following the consultation that ended last Wednesday, the 5th of October. And so in inserting that point A into the motion, I'm just hoping to reaffirm the expectation that Council had back in August of last year, and certainly my ongoing expectation that we will receive a report on the findings of that consultation. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Isa. Councillor Adams? Would any other councillor like to speak on the amendment? Thank you, Councillor Sharp.
I've just got a point of clarification, Mayor. This point A is referring to a motion that was endorsed on 24th of August 2021. I'm not sure that any councillor has been able to actually see that
Councillor
resolution.
Sharp,
So my point of
Yeah.
clarification to yourself, Mayor, is what exactly is that referring to?
What was the word for word of the...
Council
you'd
Resolution
like
of
to see what
24th
the
of
motion...
August 2021. What is that referring to?
I don't know whether anyone has a copy of that, but...
My point of clarification is,
Yep.
Mayor, we're being asked to
No,
decide...
Councillor Sharp, that's okay. We can definitely get what the... Because I understand that it's information that you require. We can get the information for what the resolution was on the 24th of August. I think that's a fair request. I just need to find out whether we need to adjourn the meeting to make
I'd
sure
like to receive it from governance, please.
From governance?
Governance,
Yep.
yes.
Okay.
The governance team.
Everyone who's joining us in the gallery and online, we may just have to adjourn the meeting for a few minutes. It is 7:56. Hopefully it won't take too long. We just need to get some meeting minutes. So 7:56 we'll adjourn and we'll be back shortly. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. It is 8:04 and we will resume debate. Councillor Sharp had asked a point of clarification in regards to the amendment, which was in regards to what the minutes were, or what was actually being referred to from the resolution on the 24th of August. That has now been circulated to councillors and everyone has had a chance to look at it. Just for relevance sake, I can read out what it was, which is F, provide a report back to council on the findings from the consultation in Part E within the next 12 months. Councillor Sharp, does that answer your point of clarification?
Yes, Mayor, I have another point of clarification, please, to yourself.
Councillor Sharp.
Can you confirm, please, that the draft community standards for signage in sporting reserves is currently out for consultation, or at least just closed for consultation? It hasn't actually been endorsed yet?
I may throw that to the Director of Strategy and Planning, Brett Walters. Thank you.
Through you, Mayor. The draft community standards for signage in sporting reserves is just, consultation is just closed, but we're of course will receive any updates as they are implemented.
Thank you. Does that answer your point of clarification, Councillor Sharp?
Thank you, Mayor. Can I speak now about
Absolutely.
Amendment, please? Thank you.
Yep.
So the addition of point A relates to a motion from last year that requests feedback on findings from the consultation in regards to the draft community standards for signage in sporting reserves. As it has just been confirmed, we have only just finished consultation. So obviously, by way of our way we operate around council, the findings from the community consultation are going to be coming to us in the form of a report when we are asked to endorse the community standards for signage in sporting reserves. So point A serves no purpose other than to give the officers a whack over the head when they've been working their butts off internally.
Excuse me, Mayor, I'd like to raise a point of order, please, under
Thanks,
55.
Councillor Sharp. Me too.
55. 55.4, conduct that constitutes improper behaviour or conduct contrary to the Councillor Code of Conduct, being misleading, a misleading statement made by Councillor Sharp, please, that it was serving to give a whack to officers.
Thank you, Councillor Isa. One moment. Yeah. What page are you on? Sorry, Councillor Isa, can you please repeat the provision?
The provision is 55.4, conduct that constitutes improper behaviour or conduct contrary to the Councillor Code of Conduct. The Councillor Code of Conduct refers to making misleading statements or misleading councillors, officers and the community.
The comment you're referring to was?
The comment I'm referring to was the comment that the amendment serves to give a whack to officers.
I will, under 55 point... so the provision is, yes, the point of order, 55.4, conduct that constitutes improper behaviour or conduct contrary to the Council Code of Conduct. And the ruling, I will uphold that point of order and ask you, Councillor Sharp, if you can retract your words, the word whack, please. I don't think that word is appropriate to our council code of conduct. Thank you.
Mayor, I will retract the word whack.
Thank you, Councillor Sharp. You can continue with, you can continue with your...
Thank you. As I was stating, point A serves no purpose because the report is going to come back to us by virtue of the operation of how we operate in council every second week. We still need to endorse the community standards for signage in public reserves. We still need to endorse that. In order to endorse that, we are going to get the feedback included. So point A does serve no purpose. And to my mind, from what points were raised by Councillor Isler earlier stating that she expected to have the report back because 12 months has just clicked over. Well, there's been a hell of a lot of stuff going on in the sporting space. I'm quite sure we're all aware of what we've been trying to achieve in the last year. And I personally don't think that that officers should be reprimanded for maybe potentially being not having a report back within a year.
I'd like to call a point of order again, please, on the same lines, that it's misleading to say that I'm reprimanding officers about a report. I made no comment that the report should come back within 12 months. I didn't say that it should.
Sorry, Councillor Isler, you just need to say what your
Okay, I'm calling a point of order under 55.4, conduct that constitutes improper behaviour or conduct contrary to the councillor code of conduct that is misleading to say that my amendment is reprimanding officers. That's not what I said. I didn't expect the report to come back within 12 months. I expected a report after the consultation.
Councillor Sharp, that's enough, thank you. I am ruling on the point of order. I need some quiet, please. I will rule against the point of order. I will state the point of order was 55.4. And I will rule against the point of order because Councillor Sharp mentioned that and I may not have the exact words, but you said in your opinion having the words come back within 12 months. So I don't believe that is, I believe what Councillor Sharp was in line.
I'd like to move that the Chair's ruling be dissented from, please.
Yep. Is there a seconder for that?
Sorry, just a point of clarification. Under 60.1, that's not how to...
I'd like to move that the Chair's ruling, and then it says in brackets, setting out the ruling or part of that ruling. So what does that mean, setting out that ruling? The Chair's ruling that the point of order not be upheld,
under 59.2,
be dissented from. Is that correct?
I don't know, I'm just
59.2,
saying that...
and I'm now asking
can't ask
for
me
a
a point of
seconder.
clarification.
Councillor Sypek. Councillor Bedio, for the sake of COVID, or you can take over the chair if you want to do it from that point.
I'm going to have an adjournment for 2 minutes. We will resume at 8:15. Thank you, everyone, and sorry for that short delay. We will go back to addressing the dissent of the chair that Councillor Isa has moved. I will invite Councillor Isa to provide the reasoning for her dissent.
Thanks, Deputy Mayor. The Mayor has ruled that the comment that was made, which was that I, in moving the amendment, was reprimanding officers. The Mayor's moved that that comment isn't misleading. To say that my motion is reprimanding officers represents me as critical of officers. It casts aspersions on me in moving the amendment. I moved the amendment in good faith. I did not move the amendment to criticise officers, to give a whack to officers, as was said earlier, to reprimand officers. I moved the motion to uphold a former resolution of this council so that we can properly receive a report on the consultation, as was voted unanimously by this council last August. I did not move the motion to criticise officers in any way, and it is upsetting and distressing to me that I would be represented as trying to be critical of officers in this way. That's not how I operate in this chamber. In fact, I make sure that I always represent the work of officers in the best light possible, because I utterly respect the work that they do.
Point of order, Mayor, please. Councillor Isa was asked to explain, and Councillor Isa is completely going off topic now. Explain why.
Deputy Mayor, could you please follow the governance rules and not
So
allow
are you raising a point of order?
Yes.
Councillor Sharp. Point of order under what governance rule?
We're still in one point of order.
Sorry, can I seek governance advice as to whether I can seek a point of order? So, I may seek an adjournment for 2 minutes until 8:20. Thank you and welcome back. Again, I apologise to those watching from home and those in the gallery for that short adjournment. We are currently dealing with a point of order from Councillor Sharp against Councillor Isa. Councillor Sharp, can you please raise the governance rule which you're bringing about this point of order?
Point of order relates to Governance Rule 55.6. The Chair must not accept tedious repetition of something already said.
Thanks, Councillor Sharp. I will rule against the point of order, but I'll reiterate to Councillor Isa to please keep keep within the terms of the governance rules in that to state the reasons for your dissent and your dissent only.
As I was saying, I'm dissenting from the ruling because the comment that was made casts aspersions on the intentions that I have with the amendment and represents me as being critical of officers. As I was saying, this is quite a distressing accusation to make.
Councillors. Councillor Sharp. Councillor Isa, do you wish to continue?
No, we need to adjourn. I'm really sorry. Can someone please adjourn?
Can we please adjourn for 5 minutes? We'll be Welcome back, everyone, and thank you those of you at home who stuck around and those in the gallery, and thank you for your patience. We will now go back to Councillor Isa, if you have any further words to add.
I'll just finish my sentence, thanks Councillor Bedio, which was that I find the accusation distressing and it misleads the council and the public about a matter related to the performance of my public duty, which is 2.4b of the Councillor Code of Conduct 2021. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Isa. I'll now invite the Mayor, Councillor Byrne, to provide a reply to the dissent.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. So under 57.1, the Chair must decide all points of order by stating the provision, rule, practice or precedent which they consider applicable to the point raised without entering into any discussion. Under 55.4, conduct that constitutes improper behaviour or conduct contrary to the Councillor Code of Conduct. I believed that Councillor Sharp did start with the words to the effect of in my opinion, before she started saying, and I can't, because it was so long ago, the couple of words that she used I don't believe were contrary to that. I believe that it potentially has been interpreted differently than I was, but I definitely don't believe that they were used with that harsh of an intention to discredit officers or anything down that line. Hence my ruling.
Thank you, Mayor. We'll now move the motion that the Chair's ruling be dissented from. So all those in favour? That is Councillor Isa. All those against? It's Councillor Tyson, Councillor Sypek, Councillor Sharp, Councillor Nation, Councillor Byrne, Councillor Hodgson, Councillor Adams, Councillor Bettio. That motion is lost. The Chair will now resume the seat.
Thank you all. Now, on my list here, we have the notice of motion that's been put forward by Councillor Sharp. It's been moved by Councillor Sharp, seconded by Councillor Bettio. An amendment has been moved by Councillor Isa, seconded by Councillor Adams, and Councillor Sharp, I believe you were talking on the amendment. Thank you. If you'd like to resume.
Thank you, Mayor. Suffice to say what I said earlier, I will just quickly repeat it. I don't think I need to say much more other than to state that point A effectively has no basis, because we are going to get the findings of any community consultation done on the draft standards for draft community standards for signage in reserves. That is going to come back to us as a matter of course. Point A does nothing, and in my opinion, to be honest, just in my opinion, it makes a mockery of what we've been trying to achieve over this last year. The community standards are going to come back to us, and we're going to get report of all the consultation that's done, because that's how we make decisions. We are provided with the consultation, details of the consultation in order to make the correct decision. So I certainly won't be supporting point A, and it just, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sharp. Would anyone else like to speak on the amendment? Just as a reminder, we've had Councillor Isa, Councillor Adams and Councillor Sharp speak on the amendment. Councillor Tyson.
I'd like to move that the motion now be put.
No, Councillor Tyson, I won't accept that because I don't believe we've had enough debate on the amendment. Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak on the amendment? Councillor Hodgson.
Thanks. Look, I'll be supporting the amendment. I think it's a timely reminder and also relevant to the motion, because a moratorium's should only really be put in place when there are active steps being taken to review the policies of council. And I think whilst I think that point A becomes complementary to the rest of the motion, because it indicates that council will be considering the new community standards and it will roll into consideration of the potential future planning scheme amendment, and indicates how the process of that coming back in a report to council is in part a rationale for extending a moratorium. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Hodgson. Any other councillor on the amendment? Councillor Isa, would you like to close?
Could I just ask the director, point of clarification from the Director of Strategy and Planning, please, Mayor, whether without point A, council will be receiving a report on the findings of the consultation that has just been completed prior to the implementation of those standards.
Through you, Mayor. Any live council resolution will be actioned by officers as required. So given that this references an earlier resolution that is still live, council can expect a report on the consultation.
I think the point of clarification was if point A was not to get up, would there still be a report coming?
Yes.
Thank you.
Could I just clarify that earlier this evening the question was asked whether this motion on the floor now overrode the motion of the 24th of August 2021, and the response was that the motion on the floor overrode the motion of 2021, which is contradictory to the answer just now.
My understanding is that the element of the referenced motion related to the part of the early motion that said the current moratorium ends on the 31st of October 2022, after which council would revert to enforcing the planning scheme. The bulk of the motion above talks about a new moratorium and would therefore override that aspect of it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Could I just ask one further point of clarification? Will the report that is coming back to council come back prior to the implementation of the community standards? Because that would be contradictory to the advice that I'm looking at on page 28 of the confidential advice that was given in the further information pack. So could that be clarified, please?
The further advice is listed as confidential as it involves legal privilege, and I'm not sure if I can comment on that.
My question wasn't to comment on that. My question was, will the report that is coming back to us come back to us prior to the implementation of the standards?
No, it won't.
So without point
Thank you.
A...
Sorry, one question for a point of clarification. Councillor Isa. Councillor Isa, would you like to close?
So I will close that we've just heard that without point A, the report won't be coming back to us prior to the implementation of the community standards, which is why I've included point A, because without point A, the community standards following the consultation will be implemented without it coming back to council with a report on the findings of the consultation. And if anyone needs any further clarity on that, I'd encourage you to please ask again to seek that clarity, because without point A, the community standards will be implemented without us, without the report to council.
Thank you, Councillor Isa. I will put the amendment to the vote.
Sorry, Mayor. Point of clarification.
Clarifications have to happen before the close, Councillor Sharp.
Yes.
I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? That is Councillor Tyson, Councillor Adams, Councillor Bedio, Councillor Hodgson, Councillor Isaac, Councillor Byrne. All those against is Councillor Sypek, Councillor Sharp, Councillor Nation. That amendment is carried. Now, on the substantive, it was moved by Councillor Sharp and seconded by Councillor Bedio. Would anybody else like to speak to the substantive?
I've got a point of clarification, please, Mayor.
Councillor Sharp?
Through you, from what I heard earlier from the director, I heard different information. So
Sorry,
can I
Councillor Sharp,
confirm,
yep.
please, that the consultation will be coming back to us regarding the community standards for signage in reserves, please?
I believe I will pass to the Director for Strategy and Planning. I believe the response is yes, but I'll get confirmation of that.
Given that the substantive motion requires a report back, then the consultation findings will be reported back to council. Obviously, that will be after the 31st of October this year, though.
Does that answer your point of clarification, Councillor Sharp?
No, but doesn't matter.
Okay. Did any other councillor want to speak on the substantive? Councillor Sharp, would you like to close?
At the end of the day, the moratorium on the signage, in order to ensure we are able to assess and investigate the standards for signage that we will be endorsing, are acceptable within our community, within our clubs, and in order to do that there needs to be at least a full year of implementation of the new standards across both winter and summer sporting codes. So the moratorium is vitally important. As Councillor Bedio said earlier, there will be most likely teething problems, and we need to be able to work any issues out with individual clubs rather than, you know, the full fist of whatever law we might want to throw at clubs that at the end of the day are always trying to do their best. Signage is vital for any club to survive. I'm quite sure that we are all aware of that. So, as I said from the outset when I began speaking tonight, it's just a sensible way to ensure that we are able to achieve a balanced approach with as much information as we can gather, and that information will be gathered over the next year. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Sharp. I will put that motion to the vote. All those in favour? That is carried unanimously. Item 11 on the agenda is urgent business. Councillors, do we have any urgent business for tonight? No. Okay, item 12 on the agenda is confidential reports, and we have two listed on the agenda this evening. 12.1 is performance of the managed service provider for the provision of contingent labour services. Item 12.1 is considered confidential under the terms of Section 3(1) of the Local Government Act 2020, as it contains information relating to A, council business information, being information that would prejudice the council's position in commercial negotiations if prematurely released, as it contains confidential contractual matters, and 12.2, the Chief Executive Officer reimbursement of work-related expenses process. Item 12.2 is considered confidential under the terms of Section 3(1) of the Local Government Act 2020, as it contains information relating to (F), personal information, being information which, if released, would result in the unreasonable disclosure of information about any person or their personal affairs. The item contains matters relating to the employment contract of the Chief Executive Officer. Councillors, do I have a motion that Council resolves to close the meeting to the public pursuant of section 66(2) of the Local Government Act 2020 to consider items 12.1 and 12.2? Councillor Sypek moved that and seconded by Councillor Hodgson. I will put that to the vote. All those in favour? That is carried unanimously. So this is the part of the meeting where we will close to the public. So thank you very much for everyone who has joined us in the gallery, and thank you very much for everyone who has joined us online. I hope everyone has a fabulous week. If you get a chance to clean out your gutters, please do so quickly. Yes, because we're having some big storms ahead, so catch up on the news if you haven't already. But from everyone here at Moonee Valley, see you later.